Hi everyone, my name is Trisha, and I'm losing my voice, so you're going to have to bear with me. I chose to speak about social media for this project. I spoke about social media for my last project as well. As social media becomes more and more popular, it's also becoming more and more of an essential part of our identities. It's affected our lives in some pretty obvious ways. We're more connected, we know more about one another, our social circles are more connected. So what would happen if social media were to suddenly disappear? So for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to limit my discussion about social media specifically to Facebook. And in order to answer this previous question, we have to look at the intersection of identity, science, and technology. I'm going to specifically argue that human identity has become increasingly more measurement dependent upon the use of Facebook. And I'm going to compare this measurement dependence with two interpretations of quantum measurement, Einstein's realism and the many worlds interpretation. So before I discuss those, I first want to briefly talk about how human identity is measurement dependent on Facebook. And I basically just want to clarify that I don't mean that if Facebook were to disappear, that people as physical entities would disappear as well. Rather, I mean that people's sense of being, the way that they define who they are, what they like and dislike, who they like to be with, and their beliefs, these things would be jeopardized if Facebook disappeared. Because it has become such a central technology in our lives, many people have created online personas through which they interact with the world, and these online personas have become permanently part of who they are. I believe identity is something that we are both born with and something that is created as life goes on. So part of who we are remains constant, and then the other part of who we are is dynamic depending on our life choices. It's this dynamic part of our identity that I believe could be affected by the disappearance of Facebook. Our identities, for most people anyway, are measurement dependent on Facebook because we rely on Facebook as a way to define ourselves. So now I'm going to now I'm going to move on to the quantum measurement interpretations, and the first one I'm going to talk about is Einstein's realism. The quantum interpretation of measurement most similar to the human Facebook quandary is Einstein's realism. Even though this interpretation was later disproven, or at least the math didn't work, I believe it fits. Einstein realism holds that quantum entities must have definite attributes before they are measured in order to have attributes after measurement. So a useful analogy from the reading is to think of it like a pocket full of change. You know that there's coins in your pocket, and you know that there's a number of them, but you just don't know what that number is. This is the same is true for quantum entities. I believe that measurement dependence of identity on Facebook is similar because we have an identity before creating a profile, though it might not be as clearly defined. We know that the identity is there, we just don't really know what it is. If Facebook were to suddenly disappear, our identities would still have some sort of definite attributes, but knowing those attributes wouldn't be as clear or easy. So in this way, the two are similar. So now I'm going to move on to the many worlds interpretation. And this certain interpretation contrasts with the measurement dependence of human identity on Facebook more than it is similar to. The many worlds interpretation holds that when quantum events occur, we can only see one state because we are only in one state. But there are many different states existing at one time, allowing for a superposition of states. So in terms of identity in Facebook, the argument could be made that the human identity offline is one state and online is another state. In this way, there is a superposition of states. Our identity is dependent on the state of Facebook and the state of the real world. Both are existing at the same time. However, we are able to exist in or be in both the real world and the online world at the same time, unlike the many worlds interpretation where we can only be in one state. And that way it's different. And this interpretation also does nothing to explain what would happen if Facebook were to suddenly disappear. I believe human identity could continue to exist, though more undefined, but this is not a component of the many worlds interpretation. So the many worlds interpretation contrasts more with the human identity dependence on Facebook more than it is similar. So we talked about how human identity is measurement dependent on Facebook, and we talked about two different comparable quantum measurement interpretations, Einstein realism and the many worlds interpretation. I hope that this presentation was useful, and I hope you guys have a great summer. Thanks. Bye.